Now we move to the much awaited section of the day, which is basically the second module of this training. And with me here, I would like to introduce our speaker of the day. Her name is Belinda Omino. So she is a microbiologist and a research technologist specializing in animal health and biotechnology at CalRO. She contributes to regional surveillance through mobile-based application systems and vaccine development for zoonotic and transboundary diseases, including Rift Valley fever and PPR virus, that's pestes hepatitis ruminantis. Her passion for science extends from lab to the community through teaching One Health lessons to students, empowering women in ASOL areas by advocating for climate-smart agricultural practices. She's also an inspiration and a mentor to high school girls, inspiring them to pursue careers in science. Other than that, she is also an advocate for gender-responsive policies and youth-led One Health action through the World Food Forum. So let us all, I would say, clap our hands as we welcome the speaker of today, Belinda Omino. Welcome very much.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Bramwell, for the elaborate introduction. As Bramwell had said, my name is Belinda Omino. Apart from the many introductions Bramwell has said I do, I'm also currently a student, a master's student, pursuing Masters in Global One Health from the Tropical of Institute Medicine in Belgium in collaboration with the University of Pretoria. So feel free, this is a very interactive session. I don't want to be talking most of the time. I also want to hear from you guys. I created a Mentimeter, but I'm thinking we use the Mentimeter later after the presentation. But if you have anything to contribute while I am doing my presentation, feel free to jump in, feel free to raise your hand. And yes, let's make this as interactive as possible. So I will share my screen. Just give me a minute. One moment. Okay. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. So, Bramwell, please tell me
Yes, we
if
can see it.
concerns, because I cannot see if there are any concerns from my end. So feel free to jump in as well. So yes, so today we will be talking about the responsible use of antibiotics in behavior change communication in the human and animal context. So I'm just curious to know from the audience, what is antibiotics? When someone asks you what are antibiotics, what would you say? You can just raise your hand and respond. Bramwell, please help me because I can't see if anyone is raising their hand up. Yes, Pius.
Okay, good evening. I'm Pius Oichoagara from Nigeria. So from my own end, antibiotics are medications or drugs that have been set aside for the treatment of bacterial related infections or diseases. Thank you.
Thank you, Pius. That's a very good definition. Simon, do you want to go next?
Yes, good evening, everyone. I'm Ba Simon from Nigeria. Antibiotics refers to therapeutic agents that inhibit the that they inhibit the or they inhibit the growth of bacterial organisms or they kill them.
Thank you, Simon. You are right. They are therapeutic agents that inhibit. I can see Eunice has her hand up. Eunice, you can go. Hi, Eunice.
Antibiotics. Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm Eunice from Nigeria. Antibiotics are medicines that are used to treat bacterial infections either by inhibiting their growth, or by killing them entirely.
Thank you, Eunice. They are medicine that used to kill bacterial infection. Adam, would you want to go next? Adam, can you hear me? Oh, okay. So Geoffrey, would you want to go next?
Hello.
Hi.
Uh-huh. Antibiotics is a medicine used to kill or stop the growth of bacteria in the body.
Thank you, Geoffrey, for your definition. We'll go to the last person, Israel. Israel Emmanuel.
Okay, good evening, everyone.
Sorry.
Can I be heard?
Good evening. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, good evening.
So, antibiotics are medicines used to treat infections caused by bacteria. So, they either kill bacteria or stop them from multiplying in the body. Yeah.
Yes, Geoffrey. They either kill or inhibit the growth of bacteria. So I have heard you guys saying it's a medication, it's a drug used to kill bacterial infection. But I just want to ask you guys, so if it's only, is it just bacteria or all the microorganisms? Because there are antibiotics and there's an antibacterial. So when you say antibiotics, it's a drug against any microorganism. And when we are saying microorganism, this entails viruses, this entails bacteria, this also entails fungi. So when we say antibiotics, it's broad. It encompasses all the microorganisms. But when we say antibacterial, so antibacterial are drugs precisely that are manufactured against bacteria. So what are antibiotics? They are substances that are made with the intention to kill or inhibit growth. And these drugs are usually used in both human and veterinary settings. And basically, they're used to kill bacteria. So when we say antibacterial, we are specific to bacterial infection. And we are focusing on bacterial infections because bacteria have evolved, they have mutated over time, and they are starting to show resistance against these antibacterials that were manufactured against them. So yes, so now we have the definition of antibiotics. And so yes, we want to understand antibiotic resistance or antimicrobial resistance. So if I could hear from the crowd, what is your understanding of antimicrobial resistance? Anyone who would want to share? We just do this. Yes, Simon?
Yes, anti. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Simon. Go ahead.
Okay, antibacterial resistance. Antibiotics resistance refers to a situation where the microorganisms which are usually sensitive to these antibiotics become insensitive to them, making infections difficult to treat. I think that's the simple definition I have here.
Yes, thank you, Simon, for your beautiful definition. Abdullahi, would you want to go next?
All right, Ma. Thank you, Ma. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Antimicrobial resistance, basically, it's a phenomenon that happens when drugs that were used to kill bacteria before or microbes before refuse to kill them. That is, the microbes are now they are no more responding to those drugs. Thank you, Ma.
Thank you, Abdullahi, for the elaborate explanation. Pius, would you want to go next?
Yes, thank you. The name is Pius.
Pius, sorry, Pius.
Thank you. From my
Alright.
own end, microbial resistance is a scenario where when the use of antibiotics over time become unyielding or without effect as a result of some factors. Thank you.
Thank you, Pius, for your definition. I hope I have pronounced it right this time. Israel, would you want to go next? Hi, Israel. Don't know if you can hear me.
Hi, I can hear you now. I don't know, my network has been shaky. So
It's all right. Okay.
oh, can anyone hear me?
Yes, we can
Okay.
hear you.
Antimicrobial resistance is a condition where microorganisms, change over time, learn how to survive the drugs that are meant to kill or stop them from growing.
Yes, Israel, thank you for your definition. Amir Sulaima, would you want to go next? Amir? Okay, so if Amir is not able to speak, then we'll go to Geoffrey.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Can you able to hear me? Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
So, antimicrobial resistance is when the drugs that were used initially to inhibit the growth of bacteria or production of bacteria are no longer inhibiting the growth of those bacteria, thus becoming the
Can you
antimicrobial
please hear me now?
resistance.
Thank you, Geoffrey, for your definition. That is absolutely correct. Eunice, do you want to say something?
Antimicrobial resistance is when microbes develop resistance to the medicines designed to kill them.
Yes. Yes, Eunice, you are correct. So thank you everyone for yes. So Paul Ola, you wanted to say something. I don't want to leave anyone out. Paul, would you want to say something? Yes.
Yes. Good afternoon, ma. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Yes, antimicrobial resistance is a situation whereby antimicrobials become resistant to the drugs that they were formerly susceptible. It's a situation whereby the microbes are now resistant to the drugs that they were formerly susceptible to. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul, for the definition. Adam, I think now Adam will be the last person because clearly you guys know what antimicrobial resistance is. So Adam, would you want to do the last definition of AMR?
Thank you so much. My name is Musa from Nigeria. When we talk about antimicrobial resistance is when microbes change in a way that makes medicine used to treat infections is less effective or useless? Hello, can you hear me?
Thank you, Adam. Yes, we can hear you, and we have had your definition. It's when when you say it, when the bacteria changes and alters so that the drugs administered against them are no longer working. So yes, so we will proceed, and all of you were right with your definitions on antimicrobial resistance. So it's basically a phenomenon or a scenario or a condition when bacteria evolves over time, because this is not something that happens immediately, like in a flip of a coin. This is something that happens over time. So as we all know, we have bacteria, gut bacteria that usually resides in our body, and they are commensal organisms. And what I mean is that they do not cause any harm to our bodies. But over time, when bacteria acquires, new machinery, I would say new machinery, they are able to alter how they present themselves. And then now when you administer drugs against these certain bacteria, they're able to resist. So say you go to the hospital and then you have an infection, a bacteria infection caused by E. coli. E. coli is also a very stubborn microorganism. So say you have an infection of E. coli. E. coli has mutated over time. And when you administer, say, a certain antibiotics, amoxicillin, against the E. coli, amoxicillin doesn't work anymore. So you'll be given a 5-day regime of medication, and then after 5 days, your condition is still the same. So there's no improvement. So that is the condition or phenomenon or situation where we say there's antimicrobial resistance. And please note that this is something that happens over time. It's not something that happens immediately. So I will just take you through how antimicrobial resistance occurs and what are some of the solutions that we can incorporate in our daily lives. So one common thing or one common behavior that we have as human beings is self-medication. So today I have a sore throat. I start feeling like there's a sore throat, and I go to the chemist, tell the chemist, hey, I have a sore throat. And the pharmacist tells you, it's a bacterial infection. And then you just take the antibiotics. So that is self-medication. Or let's say you feel like you have joint pains and you have a fever, and immediately, if you're from Kenya, especially the western part of Kenya, like I am from, you'll just immediately say, this is malaria because I have joint pains, I have a fever, this is definitely malaria. So I just go to the chemist and say, please give me drugs for malaria. So that is self-medication. So you find that this brings resistance in that probably what caused your sore throat is Staphylococcus aureus. But the amoxicillin is not an antibiotic against Staphylococcus. So, you are treating yourself with the wrong antibiotic. And so after some time, because the antibiotic was against E. coli and not Staphylococcus, really, there's no medication that has happened over time. The second cause is agricultural and veterinary use. And when I say agricultural and veterinary use, is that in the agricultural industry, especially in livestock, poultry, we use antibiotics a lot as growth promoters. So you're a farmer, you need your pigs to be ready in 6 months. Ideally, when they're growing naturally, they can't take 6 months to be fully grown. But when you use antibiotics, the antibiotics sort of like boosts their growth and development faster. So farmers who are very money oriented. Okay, almost all farmers are money oriented, but you as a farmer, you want your money to come in quick. So you'll use antibiotics just as a growth promoter, and then over time, these animals develop resistance against these antibiotics. Say I was giving my animal amoxicillin, which is against E. coli. So one day when my herd of animals actually get an infection against E. coli, the drug, the amoxicillin that I had been giving as a growth promoter will no longer be able to work as an antibiotic. So overuse, especially in the agricultural sector, leads to a lot of antimicrobial resistance. And these resistance have been shown that they can move from animals to human beings. Like there's transfer of genetic material in terms of resistance from animals to human beings. How? So I'll still give an example of the pig. So I give my pigs antibiotics for some time as growth promoters, and then I go and sell my pig in the farm. As a buyer, I will buy, slaughter my pigs. But we forget that these growth promoters, in a way, they get deposited in the body of these animals. So when we eat these animals, we also ingest some of this resistance gene. So when one day I get a similar infection, the antibiotics will not be able to work in me as a human being. And that applies also to chicken as well. We give chicken a lot of antibiotics, and we eat this chicken and we also eat their eggs. So there's that transfer of resistant gene from animals to human beings. Also, cultural practices can be a way of acquiring this resistance. Like in certain communities, they do not believe in medication. So they'll look for other alternatives to treating these infections, and not use the right antibiotic for that particular medication. Another cause is inadequate diagnostics and prescription. So this also ties to self-medication. Again, you go to the hospital, you're not sure if you have an infection, if it's viral or bacterial, because for a viral infection, the regimen of treatment will be different from the bacterial infection. And as we know, all viral infections do not need antibiotics, but bacterial infections need antibiotics. So let's say I have a flu and I go to the doctor. I really am not sure if this flu is caused by a bacterial infection or a viral infection. Most flus are usually viral infection, but we find that in most cases, the drugs that we are being given or we give ourselves are antibiotics to kill viral infection. So this is how over time we acquire this resistance. So what are some of the solutions that we can do to ensure that we change some of these behavioral practices that we have acquired? One is education. Education goes hand in hand with increasing awareness. So when we are more educated, like we know that when I get sick, going to the pharmacy and self-medicating myself is not good. When you go to the doctor, you have to inquire, okay, I have an infection. Is it viral or is it bacterial? So when we are more informed, we are able to make more informed decisions, and we are now also able to reduce the rate at which we take antibiotics, majorly for things that we are not supposed to do. Another thing is motivation. So I think people really need to, I would not say motivation, because when you're sick, that is enough motivation to take you to the hospital. But I think we really need to also continue just talking to people to ensure that whenever you feel sick, you go to the doctor and you don't just get to the pharmacy. It's like a shortcut. But you go to the doctor, the right channel. So the doctor tells you have a viral infection or you have a bacterial infection. So this is what you should do. And we also need to have regular support. And this also, this is particular in the human medicine side. Like doctors and healthcare professionals should be on the front in educating people and just increasing awareness. So when you see more health professionals in our community take up this initiative, it actually reinstates the importance to the community. I hope we are all together. So what are some of the challenges that we experience? So I termed this One Health Challenge because as humans, animals, and the environment, we are all interconnected. So human beings, we eat some of these animals or products from these animals, and we also interact largely with our environment. So that's where the One Health concept comes from. And from my previous slide, I also say that we can acquire resistant genes from these animal products into us as human beings. So as I had said, antibiotics are often used in veterinary medicine as growth promoters. So consistent use of antibiotics as growth promoters in animals lead to resistance in these animals, such that when now these animals are infected later in future, they've already acquired resistance, and these antibiotics are no longer working. So how does also the environment come in? So there's the environmental seepage. I'm going to give an example of poultry, the pig. So I'm giving my pigs growth promoters, and these pigs, they have to defecate. I don't know if that's how they pronounce it. Defecate. Yes, they have to do that. And when they do that, it goes to the environment. And say when it rains, some of this waste material are through runoff, they're transported to maybe groundwater or the water bodies that we have around. And if we have a water body that even human beings are drinking, are using, that's how we can acquire some of this resistance. Also, the runoff can the surface runoff from one farm can go to another farm. So that's also that's how the One Health there's that One Health interconnections. So what are some of the barriers to responsible use of antibiotics? There's lack of knowledge. Like when you take a case of COVID-19 and you take a case of antimicrobial resistance, antimicrobial resistance is a pandemic. It's already a pandemic, but we call it a silent pandemic because we are not seeing people die. Compared to COVID, it was in the news each and every time. Certain number of people have died because of COVID, this. So, people were actually more aware that COVID is actually a very deadly disease. And these are certain measures that we are supposed to take so that we don't contract COVID-19. But when you see the response towards COVID and the response towards yes? Hello? Can you guys hear me? Should I continue?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So as I was saying, the attention that was given to COVID-19 it's very different from the attention being given to AMR. We are not seeing in the news that people are dying of AMR. We are not seeing in the news that drugs are no longer working, antibiotics are no longer working. And this is something that is happening in real life. So limited awareness. Also, people do not know that intake of antibiotics all the time can lead to resistance. So these are some of the barriers. There's limited awareness of antimicrobial resistance and also just the proper use of antibiotics. So there's also the economic incentive of overprescribing in healthcare sectors. As we all know, I will give a case of my country. There's a lot of over-the-counter medication. Why? Because people in the pharmaceutical industry are also in business. That pharmacy in your community is in business. The more he or she sells the drugs, the more he will be earning and sustain themselves. And ideally, that is not right. Pharmacists should give medication based from a doctor's prescription. And when we say we are only giving medication of a doctor's prescription, there'll be limited use of just buying and purchasing antibiotics. So this is also one of the major reasons that have led to, AMR, antimicrobial resistance. So also cultural belief influencing antibiotic use practices. So some of these cultural beliefs is, for me, when I was growing up, I knew or I believed that when I get sick, 1 or 2 days after taking medication, 1 or 2 days, and I'm okay, I stop and my life continues. But you see, when you take your medication and you do not complete the dose, you are allowing this microorganism to continue multiplying. So say I have a bacterial infection and I have been told or it's been prescribed for 10 days. Most of the time, when you get to the 4th or 5th day, we are already feeling better. And most people prefer not to continue with this drug. And when we do that, is that bacteria has not been killed entirely. Yes, you're feeling well because, the bacterial load in your body has been suppressed and the immunity has also been boosted. That's why you're feeling much better. But in reality, the bacteria in your body has not been completely erased. So when you take 5 days instead of the 10 days, when you stop after the 5 days, some bacteria have been killed, but not all bacteria have been killed. So when you stop it at 5 days, you're giving room for the remaining bacteria that had remained in your body to multiply. And then when that happens over time, you'll get that you will continue having the same infection over and over again. So it's advisable that when your doctor tells you 10 days, please do the 10 days, because that's when you're completely sure that you have eradicated the microorganism. So what are some of the effective strategies that we can employ to just change some of the behavioral practices that we have in terms of use of antibiotics? One is community engagement. And we need to involve our communities. Like, for example, where you come from, in your village or in your town area or in your urban area, how can we talk to people in our communities about antimicrobial resistance and the responsible use of antibiotics? Because not everyone understands antimicrobial resistance. If I go to my non-scientific audience and tell them antimicrobial resistance, they'll be looking at you like, what are you saying? So we have to engage the community in some of these practices. We have to show them stories of what is happening. And it is through this community engagement and education. So we educate as we reach out to people. And then mass media, as I had said, given the example of COVID-19, mass media, we also the role that the media, social media platforms, the news, the impact that had in preventing more COVID-19 cases. So we need to also advocate for some of these issues to be aired out to the public more frequently, more often, so that people can know that this is actually serious. And policy, the last is also policy regulations. And this comes in some of the practices that we are seeing, to curtail some of the practices we are seeing. We need to push for policies that, ban or prevent the over-the-counter medication. Like, we have policies that are put in place so that chemists or pharmacists are not allowed to give out any sort of antibiotic without the doctor's prescription. So we need to also work hand in hand with our health officials to push some of these policies so that to prevent further use of antibiotics. So behavior change models. So what are some of the behavioral changes that we can incorporate as human beings to change the practices that we are seeing happening in our community? And this is it's a bit complex, but I'll try to explain that, behavioral changes happen over time. It's not something that will happen. Hello. Hi. Can I continue? Yes, so we'll just continue. So some of these behavioral changes that I'd said, it's behavioral changes is not, it's not a one-time thing. It's not like I would go and talk to my grandmother in the village and tell them stop using antibiotics for cows, and then tomorrow they will stop immediately. It's something that takes time, and it has stages. Like, one, pre-contemplation. People know that well, a majority of people know about antimicrobial resistance, but they're like, okay, it's antimicrobial resistance is there. It's probably too far from me. It can't affect me in one way or another. And then when now we increase our awareness, they'll start saying, oh, okay, so it's actually killing people. Maybe I should stop doing this and this so that I also should not be affected. And then there's also now that preparation. Once someone has accepted that, okay, yes, this is a problem that is there with us, uh, from an individual perspective, if I am a farmer, if I'm a health professional, and if I'm just me, if I get sick, what are some of the actions that we need to do? So when you start contemplating, you also start preparing. Like, once you know that when you take antibiotics for a prolonged period of time, there's resistance, or as we have said, it's not good when you've been told it's 10-day medication, just do for the 10 days. So if you're more informed, you'll now be saying, okay, I've not been on my regimen for the complete days. Let me try and, see what happens if I complete the dose in 10 days. So you're now preparing yourself to combat antimicrobial resistance scenario. And then now action. The final word is action. And when you start practicing these things, over time, you'll start seeing the benefits of avoiding excessive antimicrobial use. And this is something that doesn't happen once, as I had said. You have to maintain these habits. They usually say, a habit takes like 3 weeks for it to be, a normal, a routine, a habit for you. So for a farmer, it might take 6 months, it might take a year, but behavioral changes are usually, it's not one time thing, it's usually a process. So what are some of the ways that we can use to effectively change some of these behavioral changes we are seeing? Because we are in the age of social media, digital platforms are the way to go. When we have a poster, as we have seen here, posters and reference and printing materials, or even just online. When we see, because usually November is the AMR week, in the month of December, in the month of November, it's usually the AMR week. So in that AMR week, we can be using posters to just reach out to everyone, or as many people as we can, and these posters should just educate, like stop antibiotic use. These are some of the things that should do, just small pictures and wordings to so that people can be able to see more of these things and it affects their behavior over time. And then there's also the teach back method, and this is mostly used with health professionals. So if I am a health professional and a patient has been admitted for, a bacterial infection, I should be able to educate my patient that we've been given antibiotics, it's supposed to go for this amount of days, and this is why we are giving you for this amount of days, and you should not stop, and this is the reason you should not stop. So after giving such a directive, it's important that if you're a health professional, you ask your patient, please teach me why you've been given the drug for 5 days, and why can you not stop after 3 days, and what happens when you stop. So when we do this teach back kind of thing, we are sure as health professionals that our patients are going to do the right thing, because now we know they are informed. And then when we talk about farmers in the agricultural sector, the incentives. So if I am telling my grandmother in the village to stop using antibiotics as a growth promoter, I am supposed to give him or her a solution. You don't just go there and say, stop giving antibiotics, and you're not giving them a solution. And so one of the viable solutions to stop antibiotic use as growth promoters is encouraging better hygiene in farms and also promoting vaccination. Because when we vaccinate most of our animals, we are preventing most of these diseases. So it's a better way of preventing excessive use of antibiotics in the agricultural sector. And as Ayato said, using printed materials such as posters and leaflets to promote, to increase awareness, to educate people, and to also just, promote the responsible use of some of these tools. So what are the best practices that we should use for messaging? We need to use clear and simple language, as it is very essential for getting our message out there. For example, if I go in my village, and I say, there's antimicrobial resistance, stop using antibiotics. We are not sure everyone understands, one, what antibiotics are, two, what antimicrobial resistance is. So if as a young champion or as an AMR champion, we need to simplify our language, because not everyone is a scientist, not everyone is a medical health professional, not everyone understands antimicrobial resistance as it is, what it means. So we need to find ways of simplifying this language. And I'm very interested to hear from you guys. How would you describe antimicrobial resistance to a non-scientific audience? This is a response I am curious to see on your in the chat. How would you describe antimicrobial resistance to a layman who is not a scientist, who, say your younger brother who is still in primary, or someone who is not a scientist? How would you tell them what antimicrobial resistance is? What words would you use? So, and then also another good example. So I'll be waiting to see the responses on the chat, and then I'll be able to respond to that later. But we can continue and using the social math. When you say, when you want to describe the effects AMR is having in our continent as a whole, when you say 1.2 million deaths, someone might not see how grave the situation is. But when you use an example of malaria or HIV, because malaria and HIV, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, these are two major diseases that have been stubborn. So when you use an example of diseases, people are accustomed to seeing their effects, then that can drive the point home. So when you say, you know what, AMR, AMR is actually very dangerous. It's even more dangerous than malaria. It's killing people more than malaria has killed, or it's killing people more than HIV has killed people. So when you use such example where people can relate to what they have seen, they might actually see the gravity of the situation. And then human interest story. And this is something I am really, really advocating for, that we need more people to come forward and just speak about some of the experiences they had. When you went to the hospital and you had a serious bacterial infection or a superbug, as they say, and you developed resistance. Why? When we hear most of these stories, people actually relate to them, and they actually start saying, oh, okay, so this is actually serious. And when we talk about human interest stories, there's a book that I have been reading about phage therapy. So it's about a woman who is an epidemiologist and her husband who is a psychologist. So they go for a trip in Egypt, and the husband somehow acquires a superbug or an infection. And when he acquired that infection, there was no antibiotic in the world that could kill that particular microorganism. It's called Acinetobacter baumannii. So at that time, there was no possible antibiotic that could kill the Acinetobacter, and it was deeply engorged in the pancreas. So, there are also various factors when you want to target a microorganism inside the organ. And so this woman, as an epidemiologist, just gives a story of her experience, of her husband's experience, and how they managed to, counter Acinetobacter. So when people hear such kind of stories, they are able to see, okay, the gravity of the situation, and they'll be also more precautious. Then the last one is the microbiota concept. So an example, when you go to a mother or a caregiver, and then you tell them, stop using antibiotics. Antibiotics will bring resistance. But this antibiotic to this mother is the only possible way her child can be cured from that particular disease. So how we frame this concept also informs how your target audience will respond to it. So when you say fighting resistance, a mother might not understand what fighting resistance is. But when you say protecting your family's health bacteria, then that's more like it from a mother's perspective. So how we frame this microbiological concept also matters to the audience. So how can we get involved as young champion in antimicrobial resistance space, in public health space, is promoting awareness in our communities. I believe when we promote awareness, our communities are more educated. And when we are more educated, we are able to make more informed decisions. And also we can engage and support some local initiatives. You do not have to do something big. Where 2 or 3 are gathered, there's a good cause in that. So you can have casual conversations. And when you observe misuse of some of these drugs, just address it there and there in a good way. And that's some of the ways that we can get involved from the community, because it's all about changing the perception. An example is my sister. She tends to use antibiotics a lot, and when I try to educate her, she usually tells me, but there's no one dying. She says that phrase a lot, there's no one dying. And that actually reinforces the need to increase awareness, because she's not seeing people in the news dying of antimicrobial resistance. So she's not seeing why I am making this such a big issue. So we need to increase awareness and we need to teach people. So in the slides, I wish I could have put a link, but these are some of the reading resources that you can find online. A report, a global action plan that was produced by the World Health Organization in 2015 to just combat antimicrobial resistance. So if you have time, you can go and look at that. And then also FAO and World Organization for Animal Health, they have an organization, and they actually give more information on how to share responsibilities and coordinating at community level, national level, and global level. What can we do? And there's also the last article that talks about health behavior. Why would people take antibiotics from a health perspective? That is not recommended. So I can share some of these links to Jacob so that you can have access to them. And so thank you so much for your time. Thank you for listening to me. I am welcoming any questions, and if you want to contact me regarding anything, this is my email. You can always drop me an email and I'll be able to help. So thank you so much, guys, for listening, and thank you for your time. And I'm opening the room for questions.
Thank you so much, Belinda, for the very wonderful presentation. Yes, as she said, the floor is open for questions. think I will be taking note of the questions in the group chat. In the meantime, if you have a question and you want to vocalize it, just raise your hand and shoot your question.
Yes, Solomon, I can see you have your hand is raised up.
Okay, thank you, guest speaker. I hope I'm audible. Please confirm if I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Okay, so thank you for the presentation and for taking your time to educate us. I have about 3 questions. The first question is that I understand that antimicrobial resistance is a self-inflicted problem, but is there any research that has been done or is being done to ensure that we get drugs that will not be susceptible to antimicrobial resistance over time? And if that research is being done, how far has it reached so far? Then another question is that, in your opinion, why do you think that the ministries of health in our various African countries are underfunding the antimicrobial sector compared to other diseases? Thank you.
Thank you, Solomon, for your questions. I'm just noting them down, and I'll be able to answer all of them at a go. But if I see there are also too much, I'll answer as we go. So thank you. I have taken note of the 2 questions. Geoffrey, would you want to go next?
Thank you very much. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
So mine is just a clarification.
Yes.
Because in my community, I'm doing some advocacy works against antimicrobial resistance, and
Yes.
now when you go in a specific homestead and you tell them about the antimicrobial resistance, some of these people, they are learned to a certain extent, and now they tell you, if I'm cooking my meat, let's use the example for the pig. If I'm cooking taking the drugs, having the meat that is already containing the bacteria in them, but I cook them well and kill the bacteria in it. How will I be susceptible to the antimicrobial resistance? Is that a myth, or it is correct?
Thank you, Geoffrey. I feel like I should answer these questions as they come, because I'll forget the previous question. So let me start with Solomon's question, then I'll go to Geoffrey's, and then we'll have more questions. So Solomon's first question was, is there research being done to alternative antibiotics? Yes, there's research being done on alternative antibiotics. And if you go into the pharmaceutical industry, we all know that, developing a drug and actually that drug having FDA approvals and being released to the market, like one drug can take like 10 years. One drug can take about 10 years for it to reach the market, because there's certain trials, clinical trials that it has to go through to ascertain that it is completely safe for human and also for animal use. So that takes some time. And we probably do not have 10 years or more to, cure some of these things. What happens between now and the 10 years? So there is alternatives. There's phage, bacteriophage use to combat to combat bacteria. And if you all know the definition of bacteriophages are viruses that actually kill bacteria. So this is a very biological way of action against bacteria. So bacteriophages are they're very target specific. Like if we say, I'll just be very simple. If we say bacteriophage A is against E. coli, then bacteriophage A cannot kill staphylococcus. So yes, there is research going on alternative use of antibiotics, and bacteriophages is one of the alternative ways. So you can just do a complete literature review search to know what is happening on bacteriophages. Also, I have been doing a training on phage therapy, and this training happens, it happens here in Kenya. So if you're interested in, learning more about bacteriophages and phage therapy, you can reach out and I can connect you to the right people so that you can also have training on the alternative use of antibiotics, which is the bacteriophages. And then the second question for Solomon was, why do you think ministries are underfunding? One is because we, as the professionals, as medicine, because our ministers are politicians. They are not health professionals, they're not doctors, they're not veterinary officers. So they probably do not know that this is something of importance. And if they know, they're not getting the adequate push, to highlight some of these problems. So I would say that we are also lagging behind as scientists because we are not telling some of these decision makers that this is actually a pandemic waiting to explode. So yeah, that is how I would term it. And then Geoffrey also asked, yes, so about the transfer of resistance from food to human beings. Yes, it is something that is there. It's something that has happened. A study has been done on chicken to show the transfer of resistance gene. So you can actually get some of these resistant genes when you ingest some of these animals that were used, that antibiotics was used on them as growth promoters. I can also share links that to articles that talk about that, and you can be able to see it's not something we are just saying. Okay, so I will get more questions. Hussaini, would you want to go next? Muktari Hussaini. Hello.
I'm hearing you. Thank you for this wonderful session. I just wanted to have some little guide about how to approach community members about this program.
Okay. Okay, I've gotten your question. I'll maybe answer them. So Joshua, would you want to go next? Joshua. Hi, Joshua. Hi, Joshua. Okay.
Can you hear me, ma?
Yes, we can hear you now.
All right. Good evening, ma. Thank you so much for the insightful session. So I just want to ask a question based on my previous experience during one of the advocacy on antimicrobial resistance. So I want to ask, in a situation whereby you want to preach the gospel of antimicrobial resistance to some kind of elders, and from their own experience of antimicrobial resistance, they'll be like, oh, this is what we have been doing for the past 30 years, and there is nothing like resistance or something. So in this type of situation, what do you think we can do? How do we approach this type of situation? Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Your question is quite similar from Hussaini, so I'll answer all of them at once. Jacinta, would you want to go next?
Yeah, good evening. I hope I'm audible enough.
Yes, you are.
So my question is that how does direct contact with animals predispose humans to AMR? Now, I understand that disease can move from humans to animals, but then the resistance? How would it affect people who interact with animals on a daily basis? Thank you.
Thank you, Jacinta, for your question. Alfred, would you want to go next? I'll take Alfred's question, then I'll answer all of them.
Good evening, everyone. I hope I'm audible enough. Dr. I would like your insights on in Kenya, there's a lot of traditional medication being used. I don't know if there is any relationship between that and AMR. Thank you.
Sorry, I was just taking notes so that I respond to the questions. So Kusaini asked, how do we get community members engaged? And community, when we talk about community engagement, it comes in very many forms. You know, you can do it as a group, like say we are young champions from the Vigil Connect, and we want to go to a certain community and just raise awareness. So that's one way to do it. And also another way to do it, which for me, I do it a lot, especially in my One Health advocacy effort. It's something I'm very passionate about. So I identify. So like currently I am teaching One Health to my community, and my first target is schools. So I have an agreement with different schools that every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, before the lesson starts, we engage children on One Health. So we teach them, and they get to know what One Health is, and also raising awareness on One Health. So that is also another strategy. You can start with the people in your family. And for me also, I do it with my family members. I discourage the use of, self-medication, over-the-counter drugs. They even know that they cannot take antibiotics when I'm around, because I will, there will not be peace. So if you have funds, then you can organize and have a strategy of going to a particular community and just raising awareness. But also as an AMR champion, you can start it with whatever you have. Like you can start it with your own family, and then you go to your village, and then you can also talk to some of the community elders that you have around, educate them. When there are community barazas, you can decide to plug in and just put the AMR agenda in there. So it's just simple ways that you think you can talk to people. And believe me, even if you're staying in a flat and you talk to only the people in your flat, you have raised awareness. You don't need like a huge crowd to create awareness. You start with what you can. I hope that explains your answer. And also there was a question on communities saying that we've had this problem and nothing has been happening. So why are we supposed to take your advice? As I had said earlier, AMR, antimicrobial resistance, is a silent pandemic, and the media attention that is being given is very minimal compared to COVID-19. And by the time there will be, a lot of awareness on AMR, a lot of us will be resistant to some of this medication. And I think that will be too late. So when you approaching these things, it's good to acknowledge, because they're right. They have been using it and nothing has been happening. And you see, when we're talking about antimicrobial resistance, it's not something that happens overnight. It takes time. So as antimicrobial resistance takes time, also convincing these people will take time. It's not like it's not like something you go talk to them today and then that will cause a behavior change. It's something you have to do. You have to work with them over time. Even my family, like an example of my sister, it's a discussion that we've been doing, just talking to her about irresponsible use of antibiotics. Now she understands. And now, even when her daughter was sick previously, she was like, I've gone to the doctor, I've not gone to the pharmacy today. I've just decided to do a full screen so that I know and I understand. And I was able to talk her through and tell her if it's a viral infection, then please don't get antibiotics. If you've been told it's a bacterial infection, then you can get antibiotics. So, this is something that takes time, and it's important to acknowledge that, yes, their concern is valid, but this is something that will probably erupt and you'll start seeing the changes when it's already too late. And we are trying to prevent that. So when you prevent, and then you'll not have the cause. I hope that explains your question. And then there's also a question from, I believe it was Alfred. He asked about use of traditional medication. I also forgot to highlight this, that yes, use of traditional medication is now, scientists are beginning to look at alternative ways to kill bacteria using traditional medicine. Remember, these chemicals that we use, the primary product or the primary source is, traditional herbs. So research is also being done on the use of traditional medication. And I also got an offer to search some of the viable traditional herbs we can use as an alternative to antibiotics. So as we are using phage therapy, herbal medicine is also a very viable solution. And I would also encourage that we go back to the use of traditional medication, because before we had antibiotics, we used to use traditional herbs and they used to work. So why can't we just go back there and start? So yes, use of traditional medication is also a viable option. And then the last question asked by Jacinta was, how does direct contact predispose you as a human being to some of these resistance genes? So one example that I had given in the presentation is the environmental seepage. For example, you have your pigs, you have your chicken, you have your cows, and you've been feeding them antibiotics as growth promoters. So definitely you will use some of their feces as manure. And when you use them as manure, you will use it on your farm. And the resistant genes are also with the manure. So when you use it on your plants, the resistant genes, remember, they're not just resistant genes flowing around. They're resistant genes in bacteria. So when bacteria moves from the manure to the plant also acquires the resistant gene. And when it acquires the resistance gene, if it's a vegetable, you will eat the vegetable and then it will be transferred to you. Another way is also water. When some of these runoffs happen and then manure is swept with it, the human waste, animal waste is swept with it, and then at the nearby, there's a water reservoir where I'm using the village as a context. There's a water reservoir or a river where everyone fetches water for drinking, water for washing, and all that. So when you use this same water that has the resistant genes, when you drink it, you definitely acquire the genes. So I think those are the two examples that I would give right now because of time. And I'm seeing there are more hands. So I'll ask Amir to go next.
Okay, Ma, can you please hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can hear me or not? Okay, Ma, my question is in your presentation. Can you please hear me, Ma?
We can hear you, but your voice is breaking, but we can hear you.
Okay, in your presentation, Ma, you made an example that if someone's had to take 10 doses for the drug dosage, and he took 5 days dosage, remaining 5 days, so he was killed or treated 50% of bacteria identity. Can you please hear me?
You are breaking, Amir, but if I got you right, you are asking about the treatment regime. Like if you're told, take your drugs for 10 days and you take it for 5 days, is that it? So I didn't get the exact question.
Yes, ma'am. So my question is, when I treated 55% of bacteria, so can these things be the causes of major causes of antimicrobial resistance, so that the other bacteria that are not being treated will be resistant in your body and understand the certain and antibiotic I have been took in last time. That is my question, ma'am. I don't know whether you can got me.
So if I understand you correct, Amir, you're asking that if you're given drugs for 10 days and you take it for 5 days, and it was a drug against E. coli, so the next time when you have a staphylococcus infection, will that work? Is that your question?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That's my question.
So what I meant in my presentation was that if I have an E. coli stomach infection, and then I've been told by the doctor to take the antibiotic for 10 days, but because after the 5 days I was feeling better, and I was like, okay, I will just save this drug for, when I get the next infection. So what you're actually doing is that the bacteria in your body is actually being suppressed by the antibiotics. But in terms of population, not all bacteria that is causing the infection has been killed. So when you take it for 5 days, you'll seem like you are getting better because the bacteria is being suppressed by antibiotics, and also your body's immunity is gaining that strength to protect you against the infection. But remember, in terms of population, you didn't kill all the bacteria that was causing infection. Like there's a certain population that remained, like let's say 10 CFU of bacteria remained in your body. So when it remains, it actually gains mechanism of evading the immune system. The bacteria becomes clever in your body. So it will now know how to survive against this particular antibiotic that you've been taking, and two, it will also know how to evade your immune system. So as it learns these mechanisms of resistance in your body, it also increases in population, such that when the population increases the next time, and your immunity in one way or another cannot fight the infection, because one, the bacteria has learned how to evade your immune system, and it has also changed its surface receptors, so that even the previous antibiotic that you are using, say amoxicillin, can no longer work against it because it has already changed its surface receptor. So amoxicillin cannot target it. So it's just preferable that you use it for 10 days. And when you're asking E. coli and staphylococcus, there are certain bacteria that are broad range. There are specific bacteria and are also broad range bacteria. Like when you talk about Enterobacteriaceae, these are microorganisms that affect the gut. So, there are certain broad micro antibiotics that work against these microorganisms from the same family. But if there are microorganisms from different families, say E. coli and then Acinetobacter, those are two completely microorganisms, so that those are two completely different antibiotics. I hope that answers your question, and then we'll have our last question from Adam.
Thank you, ma. My question being answered clear and understandable.
Thank you, Amir. I'm glad. So Adam, will have your question.
All right, thank you so much. Can you hear me clearly, please?
Yes, we can.
Okay. My question goes on this. In our rural areas where cultural practices are strong, how can we effectively introduce the concept of AMR to the communities?
That's a very good question. I think in communities where there's heavy cultural practices, the best way is using the scenarios or the examples that are there. like if I don't know if this community, because now I'm putting a community in context. So if you observe that a particular farmer or your neighbor farmer is using a lot of antibiotics as growth promoters, you can tell them, hey, you can just approach them in a very friendly way and tell them you've been using antibiotics as promoters. Why don't you try vaccinating your animals? And then you give them a reason why you're suggesting vaccines over antibiotics. So, also when it's in their farms, you can say as a preventive measure so that you don't have to use antibiotics. If you have alternative natural ways of combating diseases, that also helps. So I really think this is a context-specific scenario, but I would advise, based on what you're observing in your community, you can tailor your response, you can tailor your education context based on what is happening in the community. That's how I would put it.
All right, thank you so much. The reason why I asked the question is in a scenario whereby when you see a community, they are strongly like believe on their own ABBA uses. So going to them and introduce AMR to them will be like, what is this one saying, and so on, something like that. It will be very hard for them to like believe immediately that okay, this is what, because it's a place where they don't even aware of what this is, how this thing is going to affect them, and so on, something like that. And you come and be introducing to them that okay, this is AMR, this and that, something like that, and they are not aware of anything like what is antibiotics. It is difficult for them to understand. So going to them and introduce AMR to them it will sound somehow to them that in a sense that they will be feeling like what is this one saying and so on like that. That is why I asked the question that how are we going to make use of how can we introduce these AMRs to them? Because in some spaces, according to my own experience, I think it will be better when someone wants to introduce a topic or a project like this to them. It will be on a base of seeing what they are familiar with in that what is it called area. For example, now instead of going directly to the AMR and said this is what AMR is all about, I think it will be better for us to like firstly introduce what they are familiar with on that area before going through this topic of AMR. I think it will be better in that way. I don't know if I'm making a point there.
Yes, you are making a very, very valid point. And that's why I said, behavioral changes is not something that happens all at once. It's something that takes time. So you don't expect that when you go to a community today, by tomorrow, they will stop all those practices. Because these are practices that they've been doing for some time, and to them, it's been working. So behavioral changes take time, and you should also give it time. And also, as you explained, as I said earlier, you use an example of something someone can relate to. So if it's a farmer with chicken and pigs, you use that context. You can't start using information that is borrowed or information that is not tailored to that community. So yes, Adam, you are correct. I am still seeing two hands. So Israel, you want to go next?
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. I appreciate your this session. So I have a question, and my question is: in most of our rural villages, some women or some persons do not have the resources to. Please, can I be heard?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. To always go to the hospital or the nearest clinic when they are sick. So because they have been given an antibiotic the last time they visited a clinic or a pharmacy. So they feel that, oh, whenever they have such symptoms, they can always use it. And most of them believe that an English medicine should be more effective than their traditional medicine. So bringing the message of AMR to them, uh, how do we okay, is it okay to redirect these people to the use of their traditional medications pending when they are able to go to the hospital, like when there is an issue and it requires an, maybe let me say, an a, a need for an urgent treatment? Is it okay to redirect them to the use of traditional medication that works, that they know that they have been using before? So pending when they are able to get to the hospital to be diagnosed properly, instead of just going to a roadside chemist shop asking for antibiotics. And most times when they go to this chemist shop and complain, these people also give them antibiotics with, without the knowledge of AMR. Yeah.
Thank you, Israel, for your question. Yes, I do agree. I do agree with the use of traditional medication, because if we are talking about people who are living in the rural communities, they actually know a lot about these herbal medicines and what they're used for. So depending on the urgency, because in some situations it's a do or die situation, and maybe herbal medication will not, give an immediate expected result. So I think it depends. If you're sure that this type of herbal medicine works against this kind of disease, then yes, by all means, use the traditional herb. But I am also not saying use of antibiotics is bad, but misuse of the antibiotic is bad. Like if you have a genuine bacterial infection and you are diagnosed with a bacterial infection and you're told take this drug for 10 days and you actually take it for 10 days, that is responsible use of antibiotics, because one, you've gone to the doctor, two, you've been diagnosed with a bacterial infection, three, you have actually followed the prescription dutifully. So we are not saying that use of antibiotics is bad, but irresponsible use is bad. It's the irresponsible use that causes the antimicrobial resistance. But if you also know or have ways of treating certain kind of illnesses using herbal medication, by all means. Yes, Israel.
Okay, thank you so much. Why I raised it is because I understand that I understand and also encourage responsible use of antibiotics. But the reason is most of these clinics were being handled by people who did not go to a medical school. They are not nurses. They just learned how to buy and sell drugs. So, and when you go to them, they diagnose you based on what you tell them, not based on proper medical diagnosis. No, when you tell them, oh, I'm having headache, I feel feverish, and I'm having pain in my left leg or my right leg, they will just tell you, oh, these are the symptoms of malaria, or these are the symptoms of typhoid. So that is why I said, I asked if it's okay for them to continue with the traditional medicine that they have been using, that they are aware of, pending when they are able to go to a hospital where they will be diagnosed properly. And thank you so much for addressing that and for saying that they can, because of a truth, most people in these rural areas know much more better use of traditional medicines. Thank you so much.
Yes, Israel. Thank you also for highlighting that. And when we're talking about Alfred, when you're talking about use of traditional medicine, Alfred, maybe you can also just think of going back to our rural communities and just finding out this herbal medicine, what is it against? And that could also open another way or leeway of alternatives to antibiotics, so that I know if I have, well, it's hard to know if you have an E. coli infection, but you know if you have a sore throat, this is the kind of herbal medicine that you take and it works. So it will also contribute to the reduction of, use of unnecessary use of antibiotics. So yes, seeing that there's no other hand that has been raised, I am imagining that we are all okay. We are good to go. I will share the links to the reading resources to Jacob. I will also share the links to the various articles that actually describe horizontal transmission of resistant genes. So I will share that with Jacob as well, so that you can also read. And I'll also share, what was the third thing I'm supposed to share? Yes, I will share all those, but the first two I'm making a point to share. All in all, there's no other hand raised, so I am guessing that we are all okay. We have been educated. We are satisfied, at least, with some of the knowledge that we have gotten. And I am actually employing all of you. We are 52 in this module. That let us just start, however small we can, with the available resources that you have. If you are observing irresponsible use of antibiotics in your family members, start with your family members. If you're observing it with your farmer friend, start the education with your farmer friend. We do not have to wait for, we do not have to wait for a lot of money to do some of these things. And also, if you can have a meet like this and just share your insights, is also very beneficial. So thank you so much for engaging me as well, guys. Thank you for listening. I enjoyed the presentation. Yes, Deborah. Sorry.
Yes, so I was not able to raise my hand, but I had a question.
Okay.
Can I ask?
Yes.
So normally, some people use something like benzyl peroxide. It's an ointment. It's antibacterial. So it's normally bought over the counter, but many people use it like a normal day-to-day face cream. So how will that affect people, or should people also need to be taught that that is dangerous, or is it just something normal?
That's a very interesting question. But I think we need to educate everyone that unless it is prescribed, so if it's for skin infection, unless it's prescribed by a dermatologist, please avoid. If it has been described by the dermatologist, or when you're from the hospital and you've been told you can use this to help you out, then by all means use it. But I would discourage the use of over-the-counter, especially from the skin, because we've had cases of skin cancer, and this is something that happens also over time. So one time, you've been using that ointment on your face, and then you'll hear many years later that you have developed cancer, and then you'll ask yourself, skin cancer, where did I get that? But it's some of these practices that we do over time, and we think that they do not have an effect, but we come and see their effect later. So I would suggest that if it is not prescribed by a doctor, whether it's an ointment, whether it's oil, whatever it is, if it's not prescribed by a doctor, please refrain from using it. I hope that answers the question, Rizipora.
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Yes, since I am seeing there's no other question, there's no other hands raised, I will end my presentation and our discussion here. And thank you so much for your time. Thank you for listening. I am looking forward to more engagement with you guys. And yes, thank you. I'm handing it over to Jacob or Bramwell.
Thank you so much, Belinda. This has been very, very insightful, and I am really grateful to actually be part and parcel of this. And I am pretty sure that all of us are actually resonating with my sentiments, and we're looking forward to further engagements, even as we continue to make this world a safer place in terms of antimicrobial resistance. Thank you so much. I believe we have all learned and adequately been equipped to now strengthen our engagements and interactions with the communities, as well as our own selves. Just a point to note, we have a post-test form that's in the chat, which is different from the pre-test one. It's not an exam as well. You just ask all champions to please take the time to respond to the post-test. The post-test link. Check if it's working. If it's working, just respond to it as soon as you see it. It is mandatory for all champions. So make sure you go to the chat section, look at the link that has been shared by Dr. Jacob, and complete it before you before you leave this conversation. Other than that, I would also want to thank each one of you who's made time to be here today. I know it's Sunday evening, and it is actually a great commitment and sacrifice for all of you across all time zones to have made it here successfully. So, and to thank you so much for your participation and your time. Let's continue making our world a safer place. So, unless I have forgotten something, Dr. Jacob.
All right. Thank you so much, Bram, and special thanks to our speaker once again for honoring our invitation and for the wonderful presentation. Thanks to every participant. So we'll continue next week, next Sunday. We may likely have another session on Saturday too, but for Sunday, we've confirmed that we are going to have another session next week, Sunday, same time, 5 p.m. West African time and 7 p.m. East African time. Then for Saturday, there's a little adjustment on the schedule we sent to you all. We'll get back to you on the group if it's going to hold on Saturday as well. So please let's prepare towards that. Thank you so much. Back to you, Bramwell. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jacob. I believe all has been communicated well and clearly. So once again, thank you so much to our presenter, Belinda, for a very wonderful presentation. And thank you to all of us who made it possible to have this meaningful conversation. Yes, I would now beg to end the session here, and please also just remember to fill the to fill the form before you leave here. Yes, so thank you so much, and yeah, guests can leave at their own pleasure. Thank you.